Alright, so another update to the Lemmiwinks project. As you can see, there's a bit of a difference here. I was testing out curved panels instead of corners, and they seem to work out quite a bit better actually. Because there's no longer this whole dead spot in the corner, it's able to turn faster, and it doesn't bounce back on long stretchways. Before it would kind of bounce back a little bit before it would turn in. So it works better in that regard. The only downside is, of course, instead of just being a single block for the path, it now requires a block on the top and the bottom to connect and block the rest of the pathways, but otherwise it works fine. The only other changes I made was to the sensors here, which are they've just got a lower front extent, half instead of 1 meter it's 0.5 meters, and then the end sensor has its back extent dropped to 2 meters and front to 1.5, and that's just to accommodate turning faster in this arrangement. It kind of helps keep this platform more stable, but it actually generally causes an issue like this. The stock tram I've been using doesn't like to ride on this corridor because it's moving so much faster and into corners that it can actually dislodge the connector, which isn't a problem if you're connected at the low connecting height, but if you're connected at the high connecting height, like this connector is spaced much farther out than this one. If you're connecting at that distance, it's too much. But you can see this connector sticks on just fine. So it kind of depends on the weight of the grid plus, you know, what you're doing. And this one is offset too, as you can see. But yeah, there's that, and then the other thing is just this, which is in the blueprint now, is just a way to help you make any grid you want. If you want to capture it, you can just turn on the dock sensor, capture Lemmiwinks, and that perfectly aligns everything. So we can just delete this grid, and we don't have to interact with the Lemmiwinks at all. We can just do this from this panel here. First thing we want to do is center the projection, the center button, and that's going to move it into the center position right above this connector. And then from there you can do two things. Do low offset, so this sets the vertical offset. We can also set like a left or a right or a forward or a backwards offset, which is handy if you want to, like, because the grid's attached to this back part, if you want a more stable one, you want to go backwards, because when you go backwards you're changing the pivot point, and that just means this grid is going to stay in less space. It's not going to move around as much. So you can do that, or you can set it off, like for the little corridor one, it's set to use a right offset so that it brings these 3 blocks to the center, and symmetrical and stuff. But there's also a high offset, and this is what I was talking about. As you can see, this one sits real high off the connector, and it does work, but it depends on your speed and how fast you're taking corners, and like what your corners are made of too. But you can see, like, we can set this to right offset and low. Come on. And then it's just as easy as welding up. Done. And then I actually have to set the offset because it's not connected. So you set it to center, you can see it's now yellow connected. You can set it to right on the right offset, and then we want low. And then that's ready. Then we can click connect. Now it's going to do a little routine, and then you can just break this block. And now Lemmiwinks has got a whole new grid on them. Good to go. But yeah, this is interesting. Like if you're doing like the previous examples where I was doing corridors, this could work pretty good because it makes it go faster down the corridor for like a turret or the moving passageway. It makes it go faster down the corridor, and you're already using this top block anyways for the corridors, so you can block that off with the corridors. And you can still just walk down corridors. You don't have to have these curved tunnels with their weird floors because they don't match up with the corridors. But yeah, that's just a quick update. This is interesting. It's definitely a lot faster. Like you can see, it's moving through corners with no problem, and the grid's nice and stable too. You don't get a whole lot of jitter or anything. It does still sometimes catch on certain corners. I'm not exactly sure why it's catching on that corner, but it seems to catch on that corner more commonly than others. But still, in general, it's going probably 3 times faster, 2 times at least. But it all depends on how much you want to like spend in putting it together, the stuff. This is a lot easier to weld up just a single block of corridors instead of having to create these patterns. But payoff sometimes worth the effort. Just another option for the system. But that's everything today.